Joined now by Colter Nuanez, and we're about to go inside the Big Sky presented by Visit Pocatello. Colter, let's get right to it. Big weekend in Big Sky basketball. Montana State, Northern Arizona, the women's teams, both have the longest winning streaks in the conference on either side. They face off for a second time Thursday night. What's at stake in this game?
Well, how cool is it for Big Sky fans? Thursday, you got 1 versus 2 for both the men and the women, and it's a little bit of a revenge because the home team lost each of these first two. I know we're going to get into Northern Colorado, Montana a little later on, but this should be a really fun matchup on Thursday in Bozeman. Both these teams love to get up and down. Both these teams have great coaches that are sort of point guard oriented coaches, and Tricia Binford at Montana State and Lori Payne at Northern Arizona. And the thing that's so fun too is that if Montana State wins this game, they continue their winning streak, 11-0 in Big Sky play, and they'll have both matchups against the second best team in their rear view. So, you can never chalk anything up, but you'd have to say that they'd at least have an inside track at maybe running the table. For NAU, if they win, now all of a sudden this thing gets all sorts of chaotic, which would be so fun, because then you'd have a tie atop the league, and it would be tit for tat. Who can beat who can keep it going down the stretch. So either way, I think the result will make it very exciting within the league.
We will get to that 1-2 men's matchup in a minute. I want to stick on the women's side really quickly. Idaho in third place in the women's standings. They had a 6-game winning streak, have lost 2 of their last 3 since. What will it take for them to contend with NAU and Montana State as we get towards the postseason and our conference tournament?
Well, in terms of just continuing to do what they're doing, it's playing with great energy. I think that Arthur Morera has been one of the great surprises in the league, not even just this year, but that I have really experienced in my 18 years covering Big Sky Conference basketball. John Newley was an institution in the Big Sky Conference, right? He's at Idaho State forever, and then he was at Idaho for a really long time. He led them back into the Big Sky, went to the NCAA tournament, always one of the great tournament coaches. So when they moved on from him, it was not without controversy because he had won so many games and he'd been there for so long. Carrie Amy came in and did a good job, but then that was such a weird situation where she was just a one and done, and then she flips and she goes to South Dakota. And so Morera was kind of like the guy that had to inherit this job. And I think people were wondering, well, how's this interim guy going to do? Well, he's done tremendously well. They brought in as many impact transfers as anybody in the conference. And when I watch them, that's the thing that sets them apart. They play so hard. They play with so much passion and heart. I know they dropped a couple of these in the last week or two, but I do think if they can get back to that, they can certainly be a contender to at least make some noise at Boise, in Boise in March.
You alluded to it earlier, the men's 1-2 matchup, Northern Colorado versus Montana. When they played earlier, the Grizz lost 81-57 in that meeting, not even close. What is the key to success and victory in this game for both teams?
I think the Grizz are going to certainly have revenge on their minds. They did not play well. Montana is such an interesting team because I think they're the most talented team in the conference, but they have these two sort of anomaly outlier games. That one where they got drilled at home by Northern Colorado. No, make no mistake, Northern Colorado is a very good team, and they absolutely outplayed Montana from start to finish in that game. And then also when Montana lost at Idaho State, they were up by 8 at halftime, and then they lost by almost 30. It was a total meltdown. That seemed to be like a total turning point for their team, though. They've won 4 in a row since then. So I think that if Montana could continue to keep playing together, we could see a much closer game. That said, Northern Colorado is the team that's been playing together the best out of anybody in the conference. There's no question about it. I think this could be a great game. I think it'll be a lot closer than it was in Missoula about a month ago.
We are about a month out from Boise. And if you look at recent past years, the middle tier of the Big Sky men have fared pretty well in Boise as opposed to the top 1 and 2 seeds. Our middle standings, our middle of the pack right now is a very, very tight race. Colter, where would you want to be seated considering the past success of those 7 to 10 seeds in the Big Sky Conference tournament?
Well, it's so interesting the way that it has played out in the last couple of years. I mean, last year we saw the 10 seed go all the way to the semis. So anything, the notion that anything can happen is oftentimes overblown. Anything actually can happen at the Big Sky tournament when the last place team knocks off a couple of the higher seeded teams. So I would just want to be playing really well come that time of the year. Because right now we've seen Northern Colorado, Montana separate themselves on the men's side. And then everybody else has just been sometimes good, sometimes not, so, up and down, up and down. So I think you just want to be playing really well and take some momentum into Boise, because I don't think there's necessarily a team that you're dead set on avoiding, so to speak.
Well, Colter, Boise will be here before we know it. And if you want to hear more from Colter and his Big Sky basketball takes, check out Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops, 4 p.m. Wednesdays Mountain Time, and Around the Big Sky's Men's Hoops, 4 p.m. Mountain Time on Thursdays for all that great content. Everything on Skyline Sports. Colter, appreciate you being here again.
Thanks so much, Meg. Appreciate it.